Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot. Today I am filming my top 5 Oracle decks of 2020, and I've decided to approach this in a slightly less complicated way than I approached my tarot top 5. These decks were not all released in 2020, but I purchased them all in 2020. I have in total bought 9 Oracle decks in 2020. And I do have at least one more coming to me for Christmas, and that is the Threadbound Oracle by Cedar MacLeod. I'm fairly confident that will have been a top 5 Oracle deck as well, but since I don't have it yet, I'm filming this in the middle of it's the 16th of December, so I'm not able to include that, but these are the top 5 decks that I have got this year so far. So anyway, without further ado, number 5 is the Mystical Healing Reading Cards by Ina Segal, and this is published by Rockpool. So sorry about the light, it's a bit, I've all the lights on and it's a little shadowy as a result. It's only 4 p.m. It's only 4 o'clock, but with it being this late in December, the days are getting shorter and shorter, so it's pretty dark here. And all the lights are on. So the Mystical Healing Reading Cards I have already done an unboxing of on my channel. The art in this deck is kind of quite it's quite kind of sacred themed, quite Christian themed. I think some people are not a fan of that. The artist is Jake Badley, and as far as I understand, Jake Badley is an artist who, this is from his existing body of work, and then the Ina Segal, I assume, has then paired up a selection of his work with her descriptions. This deck actually has been on and off my will I rehome it, will I pass it on to somebody, will I keep it? It's been on and off that list. But when I came to look at the 9 Oracle decks that I have got this year, the 5th position was the most kind of contentious, because the others were very straightforward ones that I knew were going to be top picks. The 5th pick was harder, and of the others, this is the one that I probably have worked with the most, and I have found it quite productive to use in readings. And I have seen a little bit of, watching other people working with it on YouTube, other people talking about this deck, and they've done some really intense and meaningful work with it. So I think it's one that I've got quite a lot more work to do with, but the readings that I've used it for so far this year have been pretty good. So this has taken the 5th place on my top 5 oracles of 2020. Okay, moving on. Number 4. The difference in the size of those boxes. Number 4 is the Inspired by Frida cards by Akal Pritam. And this is also a Rockpool publication. So there's a whole range of these little tiny cards, and it doesn't come with any kind of a guidebook or anything. This is actually published in 2020, text and illustration by Akal Pritam. So this deck is lovely. It's not actually using, I'll hold it a bit closer because it is so little. It's not actually using Frida Kahlo's artwork, which one assumes is under copyright. It's inspired by Frida. So the color schemes and the background patterns are, I'm assuming, inspired by her work. And then the portraits are all, every card has a portrait of Frida Kahlo in, with different headdresses and different facial expressions. But she's such an inspiring and interesting artist anyway. But this little deck is really nice to look at and really nice to handle. I like these tiny little cards. The other thing that I love about this deck is the cardstock. It just whispers in the most gorgeous way when you shuffle it. And I have had this deck out nearly every day since I bought it. Not necessarily because I've been wanting the messages from the cards, just because I really love the feel of it and the sound of it when I shuffle it. It's just lovely to hold. So then on the backs, you get these little messages. And I'm not a big fan of decks that have the text on the back, but they're nice little messages. So you belong to life. With love and reverence, you will find the peace and harmony of this. Your creativity will only be useful when your mind is neutral and dutiful. Meditate every day. I pull this card all the time. I don't have a meditation practice. I have tried meditation. I struggle really badly with meditation, which is possibly a sign that I really need to get into meditation. But I'm not a meditator at the moment anyway, and that card has come up for me a lot. It's like this little deck is just constantly telling me to meditate. Anyway, it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's a little magnetic closure as well, which is so cute. I love this, and it's so tiny, you can just have it sitting out, and I have been pulling it as a supplement for nearly every pick a card, like every daily draw or every weekly reading that I do. I'm adding a little inspired by Frida card to it just because it's so nice to work with. So that's my number 4. Number 3 in my top oracles of 2020 is Seasons of the Witch Scion Oracle. And that is by Lorraine Anderson and Juliette Diaz and Giada Rose. So this is a deck that is new out in 2020. I got it just before Halloween, which was apt, as it is this Scion Oracle. And I have done a review of this deck as well. It is lovely. I love the red gilding on the edges. Look at how the light's catching that. It is just delicious. And the backs, oh, the backs are just gorgeous. This is maybe my favorite card backs of the year. Like, I love these backs. They're really cool. It very much reminds me of the Literary Witches book. Same sort of style. And the cards, now this is a mass market version of what was an independently produced deck originally. And from what I've seen from the indie deck, if you look out a walkthrough of the independent version online, there are more kind of intense magical cards in the original indie version, and they've maybe taken out the most hardcore cards for this mass market edition, which is also, there we go, 3 for 3, also published by Rockpool. So these are glossy cards, as you can see, the light's catching them, but you know, they're really cool. It's not a deck I would use at any other time of the year apart from, you know, in October in the run up to Scion. It was great using it with the spreads that actually are in this chunky little guidebook that came with it. It comes with quite a few spreads that are designed for this deck, and I think it works best in those spreads. I found it also really helpful in planning my actual Scion ritual and what I was going to do for Scion. It was really useful for that as well. And the little, you know, full color pages, the descriptions and the reversed meanings and everything in the book. The book's really, really detailed. So it's a great little deck, and I do hope that the team behind this deck do produce a Seasons of the Witch deck for other seasons. I think it would be a really nice collection to have, and you know, coming as I do, obviously I'm in Ireland, and you know, seeing cards like the Banshee and so on, and so much of the traditions of Scion come from, you know, the Celtic Irish traditions, and that then got filtered into the Irish Catholic traditions around All Saints and All Souls Day and so on. This is very familiar. A lot of the content of this deck is very familiar to me, and I really enjoyed working with it. So I really do hope, if you're they're not watching, if you're watching, of course they're not watching, but Rockpool and the creators of this deck, you really need to make more decks in this series, because I think they would be really popular. So that's a great deck, and I'll be hanging on to that for next Scion. So top 2 we're down to. Now this number 2 is not published this year. This was a deck that was published in 2018. This is Manifesting Your Greatness Oracle by Amy Chase, and this is published by Red Feather. So comes in this matte box, which is really beat up looking because I dropped it, but I have actually only had this deck for about, I got it in about maybe May time. This is a fab deck. It is really, really, really good. So there's the creator, Amy Chase, who is on Instagram as at Chase Amy, if you want to look her up. That's how I first discovered this deck, and had it sort of on a wish list for a long time, and then finally went for it. Okay, so this deck, like the Seasons of the Witch, has really cool metallic gilding. I just love it. You see, it's a little bit dinged up from being worn, but oh, it's so cool. I love it. The backs are kind of weird, but I think it just adds to the quirkiness of this deck. The art style is really kind of, it's really unique and really bright and fun to work with. And the messages are lovely. Find a little divinity in yourself. Shine some light on it. Call upon angels. I've done a review of this full deck on my channel as well, because I worked with it earlier in the year. Use your words. Explore your depths. Look at that. So some of the images like this one are quite simple and uncluttered. Continue. I remember this came up for me a fair bit that month. Buck Convention. Blackout Media. Notice the miracles. Believe your magic. Simplify. So it has some really busy cards, and then some really quite simple kind of cards with less going on in them. The art style is really unique, and the book is lovely. The book is not even really necessary to read the deck. Like, I think the messages and the images are just really straightforward, and it's a really good advice deck. I wouldn't say so much affirmations, more advice, really applicable life advice. But the book is really nicely produced as well. You've got like a detail from the image on the facing page, and then you just have a slight expansion on the card, and the tone of it is good fun. The time is now, act now, don't wait, don't drag your feet, go, start the project now, stop reading this card and go and do that thing, woo! Runs off waving arms like Kermit the Frog. So the tone of it and the vibe of it really connected with me. I really, really enjoyed working with this deck. So it's called Manifesting Your Greatness, and I think it's really good for a daily card pull if you are thinking in terms of your work life, or if you run your own business, or if you're trying to work on like a long-term passion project like writing a novel, or you're trying to get your own website set up or something like that. Like any kind of passion project or business project or work activities, this deck is a really good little motivator to have to hand. So this is mass market, it's readily available, it's absolutely fab. I can't recommend this highly enough. Manifesting Your Greatness by Amy Chase, published by Red Feather. And then my number one Oracle deck of the year is the Awakened Soul Oracle by Ethany Dawn. And the art is by Danielle Mulligan. So this is the second edition. It comes in this lovely matte box. Feels really, really nice to touch. The cards are humongous. So the cards are the full size of the box, and they have Ethany's bee backs. So that's my hand. That's my whole hand, and that's a card. Maybe to compare with, say, Manifesting Your Greatness, which is kind of like a standard tarot card size. These are some big cards. So the Awakened Soul Oracle, I think some of the cards are different from the first edition and this second edition. Some were redone. Look at that lovely silver gilt edging. It's so gorgeous. These are also matte cards. And like the Manifesting Your Greatness, it's that combination of the gilt edging and the matte cardstock gives you this really amazing sound when you're paging through them or looking through them. So let me show you some of these cards. So these images are lovely. The deck, the people depicted in the deck are quite diverse. It's mostly a female deck. And then you have this sort of keyword at the bottom, which is maybe a little bit hard to see on camera here. So that's leadership. Looks a lot like Oprah, doesn't it? Treasure. Perseverance. Meditate. I have to say, the month that I worked with this deck, I did pull that card a few times too. The cards keep telling me to meditate. Trust. Dream. Oh, it's so beautiful. Authenticity. Wisdom. Song. So the keywords are simple, you know. They the art is gorgeous, really lovely. It's interesting, I'm only just noticing for the very first time actually that in terms of the line work, there's a white line around every person, like grounding. It's beautiful. Sensuality. Devotion. Challenge. Fun. Like, these are lovely. They're a great card to pull as a daily draw. They're great cards to pull for a supplement to, or a focus for a tarot reading. And you know, the keyword in the image itself gives you lots to work with. But the little book, which has again a lovely soft feel cover, the little book has some great information in it. Obviously the book is written by Ethany, and you know, as the deck's creator, you know, she I understand her process is that she will have sort of designed the concept for each card and told the artist what she wanted depicted. I mean, I really love the art style, and I think you know, the combination of the art style and the keywords and the book works really well together. Like, look at that family. Isn't that beautiful? So the book's great, and I don't think you can really use this deck. Well, you can use it without the book, but it's a kind of a waste of having a great book by Ethany if you use it without the book. You know, so we've got keywords, and then there's like a little soul about a story about the awakened soul depicted in the card. And then there's a meaning and a shadow meaning and affirmation and a little journal prompt. So there's a lot of good material in this guidebook, and I think the cards are so straightforward in terms of the keywords. And I think it's Lisa Papez always talks about having expansive keywords. Like, there's really lovely expansive keywords in this deck, and you can get an awful lot out of it without the guidebook, but it's a missed opportunity not to use the guidebook because it's so great. So I bought this in January. I pre-ordered this when Ethany sent out her alert that she had a bunch of decks coming out this year. I pre-ordered this, which arrived I think in about June, and the Modern Love Tarot, which I understand is winging its way to me at the moment, or coming it slowly on a boat, but it's on its way to me. But this deck is just amazing, and I love it. And honestly, I like this deck so much that I nearly feel like a lot of my other Oracle decks are a little unnecessary now that I have this. Like, it's such a great deck. I actually think that these two, never mind being my favourite Oracle decks of 2020, these two, and of course the Wisdom of the Oracle by Clep Reid, which I adore, those would be my favourite Oracle decks, full stop. So that has been my top 5 Oracle decks of 2020, and they're all mass market apart from the Awakened Soul Oracle by Ethany, which you can get from her website, which I will try to remember to put a link to below this video. So what were your favourite oracles of 2020? Do you, like me, feel like you should stop buying Oracle decks because you keep buying them, and maybe the amount of time it takes to get to know a new Oracle, it's hard to actually use them all if you buy too many Oracle decks. That certainly has been my experience this year a little bit, because some of the ones sitting off camera that I didn't choose in my top 5, they're perfectly nice decks. I just haven't really looked at them yet. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I am really enjoying watching all these roundups at the end of the year. So I hope you've enjoyed this too, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.